name's Amanda and welcome to the 5th block tutorial in my Star Sampler Quilt Along With Me series. So in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to make this lovely maple star block. So you might notice that this block is very similar to the last block that we did, which was the Janet's star block. The only difference with this one is that it has these opposing squares in each of the corners to sort of make up a different design than the Janet star block. In my block I chose to use contrasting fabrics to showcase the lovely star design in the block. It is up to you whether you want to do contrasting fabrics or matching similar type coloured fabrics, but I think that contrasting fabrics work the best in this block. As always, you will find all of the measurement and cutting instructions down in the description box below. There is also a link to the pattern sheet which you can download and print off and follow along with as you make the block. Now I know how eager you all are to get on with block number 5, so let's get into it. This is how you make the maple star block. The fabrics I'm using to make block 5 include the Kerchief solid for the background, Print Shop Grid in peach as my first print, and the XOXO basics in number 2 pencil for my second print fabric. So to make the maple star block, you will need to cut from your background fabric 1 4.5 inch square, 4 2.5 inch squares, 8 2.5 by 4.5 inch rectangles, then 4 2.5 by 4.5 inch rectangles from your first print, and then 12 2.5 inch squares from your second print fabric. Firstly, place the 4.5 inch square to one side, along with all of the first print rectangles, 4 of the background fabric rectangles, and 8 of the 2.5 inch second print squares. Then take the leftover pieces and make the corner square units of the block. To do this, pair each of the 2.5 inch squares evenly with one another, pinning them into place. At the sewing machine, feed the first pair through, keeping to a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Then carefully chain stitch the next 3 pairs, one after the other. Snip each of the joining threads and then press each seam towards the darker side of fabric using a medium to hot steamy iron. Next, lay out a duo with the second print square facing to the left. Evenly pair and pin with a background fabric rectangle, and then repeat this step one more time. Then pin the leftover background rectangles to the 2 leftover duos, facing in the opposite direction to the last 2. Sew a 1/4 inch seam along the pinned edge, chain stitching each unit through one after the other. Snip the joining threads and then gently press the center seam towards the background fabric rectangle on all 4 of the units. Then give each unit a quick check to ensure they each measure 4.5 inches squared. Trim away any excess if you need to. Once finished, you should be left with 2 units going one way and another 2 going the opposite. Place these units to the side for later on. Next, take the leftover pile of squares and rectangles and begin making the flying geese units for the block. To do this, mark a diagonal line along the back of each of your 8 2.5 inch squares with a ruler and pencil. Place one of these squares into the corner of a background fabric rectangle, with the marked line running inwards towards the center of the rectangle. Evenly pin the square into place and then stitch on top of the line from one corner to the other. Carefully trim off the excess fabric from the corner with a ruler and blade, leaving behind a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Then press the corner out firmly with the iron. Place another 2.5 inch square on the opposite end of the rectangle and pin it squarely into place. Stitch again on top of the marked line, corner to corner, and then cut off the excess, leaving behind a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Press the corner outwards with the iron. Next, pair this flying geese unit with a first print rectangle, ensuring to evenly pin it together along the edge where the triangle points meet. Sew a 1/4 inch seam down this side and then press the seam towards the first print rectangle. And like before, check the unit with your ruler to ensure that it measures 4.5 inches square. From here, repeat the same set of steps to make another 3 of these units. Once all units have been successfully pieced together, lay them out into the maple star block design, using the pattern sheet as a guide if needed. Starting with the top row, flip the middle unit over onto the one to the left. Nest the 2 seams that are here and then evenly pin them together. Sew a 1/4 inch seam down this edge and then gently press the seam outwards towards the corner unit. Flip over the last unit in this row, evenly nesting the 2 seams again and pinning into place. Sew another 1/4 inch seam and press the seam outwards towards the corner unit. Piece together the other 2 rows in the same way, pressing the seams in the opposite direction to the last. Finish the construction of the block by flipping the middle row over onto the bottom one and nesting each of the seams along the top edge. Evenly pin the rows together and then sew a 1/4 inch seam down this side, ensuring each of the seams are lying flat before sewing over them. Gently press the seam inwards towards the middle row, then turn the top row of the block over into place. Nest and evenly pin all of the seams and top edge into place, and then sew one last 1/4 inch seam along this side. Press the seam inwards towards the middle row and then give the completed block a good final press. Then lastly, square up the block to a final measurement of 12.5 inches square. Keep on sharing your lovely finished blocks with me either on Instagram using the hashtag Amanda's Quilt Along or on my 3 3/4 Facebook page. You can tag me at 3 3/4 and I will see it, or you can post it on the actual page and I'll also see that too. So at this very moment in time, block 6 should be out by the end of next week. It all just depends on my work schedule and what's happening in life and etc, etc. I'm really excited to share with you what I have in store for block 6. It's lovely and colourful, maybe a little bit complicated, but lots of fun at the same time. So until next time friends, thank you all so much for watching and hope to see you another time very, very soon. Bye!